Hi, everybody. Actually, this is, excuse me, oh, just starting the day and already my throat. So, uh, yeah, as I say, this is really for Brian Harpole, excuse me, for Andrew Brettler. Um, Brian Harpole is the name of the gentleman who has started a lawsuit against Candace Owens. And I mean, it's just like, once again, uh, it's like, what are these people doing? Is this, like the Three Stooges that are running the show over at TPUSA? I mean, it's almost become like some Hollywood movie of a group of people who are committing some crime, and they bungle up and like they're so evident in their cover up that they give themselves away. Everybody in the community is like, well, they're pretty much admitting that they did. I mean, and then we have the physical evidence. Um, so yeah. Anyway, this is the lawsuit by Brian Harpole against Candace Owens, and it just opens the door for Candace Owens to do all sorts of discovery. Baron, I mean, he does a good job, but he's a lawyer who actually understands something about the law, and he should really listen to his own, excuse me, his own podcast and this clip, as should all of the lawyers, because all of the lawyers, they've been ignoring me just as much as the journalist and everybody else. And what my objective is to clean up family courts, I mean, and then combat domestic abuse, promote the family. And in fact, I was just telling yesterday to one of the economists I think he's at the World Bank. I get I work where they lunch, so I get them both. And I have a little tab, they get a discount, so I know. Are you with the IMF? Oh, I have a whole spiel. Are you with the IMF, World Bank, or are you a ZOE? And they might look at me and say, what's a ZOE? There are 7 buildings in the neighborhood that are managed by Tishman. If you do work in that building, well, then you do get a 10% discount. I gave it to you today. Ask your HR people if you, in fact, are eligible for the ZOE account, and have them do something useful for once. And then if I get a bit of a laugh, then I start into, and you know what? The HR department has been taken over by the feminists. They're absolutely crazy. I've been working on family court for 20 years now. And in that, I've had to research the feminist movement, because those women rights people, oh, they're batshit crazy and they're feminists. Um, believe me, they're the enemy. Oh, and then the anti-feminist, huh, yeah, they just want to get up on a podium like Phyllis Schlafly. So yeah, it's a shit show out there. And guess what? UN Women is really, really at the lead of all of this. Uh, and sometimes, I mean, there are people over there at the IMF and World Bank who do, everybody wants to shut me up, but since they won't invite me, since they illegally terminated me from their organization twice, and I'm not on the invite parties, they uh, illegally prevented me, had blacklisted me from their spring and annual meetings. I mean, they just keep on picking fight and fight and fight with me, but I can't find a lawyer to go up against them. I mean, I got them by the balls on labor rights violations and by the balls on their policies and practices. Check out my activism website, all of the letters, and I'll be reading further from King Charles' letter. So anyway, uh, you know, Andrew Brettler and all the other lawyers, I've done my research. So I wish you would stop, as Erica Kirk says, just stop. Stop ignoring me. Because I'm not going away, and I'm not some stupid bimbo who hasn't done her research. Not only have I done my research on all of the ideologies going on out there that need to be challenged in the court and established jurisprudence, and we don't have to do anything illegal like the Me Too feminists. Those laws that they produced against the statute of limitations in New York to bring their cases to the courts there has backfired against them, and they're up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. I don't have to worry about statute of limitations. I'm going after everybody on RICO, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, and Enemy Alien Act, and human rights conventions. Okay, so RICO doesn't apply. Excuse me, so statute of limitations doesn't apply. And you'll better start looking at the jurisprudences of the Nuremberg trials. Now, I agree with the defendants in those trials that no laws existed that made their activity illegal, and they never should have. But the trials actually did not have any legal authority. Now, the Americans are claiming the same thing with the international courts. And you know what I got to say to that? One big fuck you. We'll see you there. I mean, the first jurisprudence on violence against women as human rights violations is against the Americans, 2011 Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. So anyway, either this is, resolved legally, and I mean now with everything coming out with the TPUSA, the Jewish Miriam Adelson and other Jewish donors owning Congress. I mean, as I keep on saying, I've been pointing my finger and focusing on the Catholics, starting with the new KKK, the Kerry Kennedy clan. So it's all the factions. It's the feminists, it's the Jews, the Catholics, the Muslims, the Hindus, the Middle Easterns, everybody just wants to, be the rich and famous. It's not about ideologies. I mean, most of these people are the only people who espouse any kind of, shall I say this, intellectual analysis are a bunch of psychopaths who want like this Orwellian future. And the ones who don't want it are just like, well, become, that's our destiny. I'm like, see, Baron Coleman says that really what's going on here with It's not even, yeah, the problem is not Trump. The problem is not anybody who's in the White House or any place else in authority. It's an evil, and it has. I mean, my research has looked at that and seen that. Candace Owens into the feminist, Tammy Peterson, the wife of Jordan Peterson, she's looked into, there's a Rachel Wilson, I believe her name is. Um, I was just listening to one of her interviews the other day. Like, yeah, I think I have it in my slides to use. Um, yeah, okay, like we know where the problem is. Now let's get to the solution. At my father's memorial, there was a nurse that had worked with my father. This is they they were living on these people's farm. It's in Lubbock, Texas. Um, but she said, "Oh, if somebody woke up in the hospital room and saw your father sitting next to him, they would know they were in trouble. But they also knew they were going to survive because your dad was there." And there's a cardiologist who recently came in to get some donuts, and she was saying, I just said, "Well, what's your father's name?" And I told her, and she said, "Oh, well, there's a Wilcox protocol." And I was like, "Oh, wow." I mean, I don't know if that's from my dad, but oh my gosh, I remember his history and physicals. First, he would, often get to his uh, office late. I'd sometimes, sit there, come in and do secretarial work when I was on vacations for Foxtrot. So anyway, he'd have people waiting because he'd get tied up at the hospital, at the emergency room or whatever, tied up with a patient at the hospital and couldn't leave that patient. I mean, these guys were coming in for their checkups. Um, and so they'd have to wait. And then if he had a new patient, um, I mean, sometimes we juggle it around, but if he had a new patient, he'd spend however long it took, and he knew everything about that person. And I mean, I once told him, I said, "God, Dad, I just admire you so much for your your work." And he was like, "Yeah, it was hard work." So all the intelligence in the world doesn't mean a hill of beans if it's not directed in the right direction, and if it's used for nefarious purposes. And the people who turn a blind eye and don't want to know are just as guilty as those who are committing the crimes within their communities or in their homes. So listen,